I've been waiting my entire life for the day in world history where we learn about communist China because it's the only subject that actually pertains to me. So it's the only one that I'm willing to pay attention to and actually listen and digest the information properly, more so than any other unit. But communist China, we learned about in history. Our teacher had to hype me up for it. He was like, Thomas, next Friday, it's communist China Day. I'm like, yeah, I should probably lay off on the nationalist Chinese attitude, or else I'm gonna get trolled even by my teacher even more. But we learned about communist China, the communist revolution, all that good stuff that happened. We started off with stuff that I already learned on my own because my dad explained to me and I read it in the book, the Civil War between communism and democracy. Basically, after the century of humiliation, a little short-term, short-lived democracy/republic was attempted, and the leader of this little democracy was Chiang Kai-shek. So he basically had this nationalist democratic party, which supposedly wasn't very good, despite it being a democracy, and we all think democracy is great. But supposedly it was really bad. She didn't go into detail. She just said, it was bad, corrupt, and, they would kill a lot of people as well. So it was just a pretty crappy government. So out came Mao Zedong, the new shining light with the Communist Party, which a lot of people probably sounds like crap, but he also treated the people a lot better and provided a much nicer appeal to the peasants. He was a nicer person than Chiang Kai-shek in his nationalist democracy. So he gained a lot of support over time, and over time, two conflicting parties were obviously going to have a civil war over who's going to be the main government. So communism versus democracy. This is the civil war within China. 2 to 3 million death toll supposedly, and it's 22 years. They make up peace during World War II just to fight off Japan, and then right after they defeat Japan, they go right back to fighting. So after all the long fighting, we didn't really go into detail on any specific events or wars. The only thing we went over was the march where the Chiang Kai-shek sends the Communist Party on a march across China because they have to run away or something. So on this march, that's super long or something, they march all across China and they gain a lot of support because everywhere they go they're actually helping out people and being really nice. So the Communist Party and Mao Zedong, they get a lot of support as they march around China. So over time, after 22 years and a lot of death toll, the Communist Party wins because they're nicer to the people and they appeal better. So the people like them, and democracy, Chiang Kai-shek's party loses, and they run away to Taiwan, which now has the even modern day issue of whether or not Taiwan is a country, which our class actually really wanted to get into as well because everyone was arguing where are the documents? Where are the documents? They expect a really simple answer. They don't care that the fact that it's an ongoing issue or the fact that the issue's been going. They're like, is it official? Is there a document that supports Taiwan being a country? If there's not, then they're not a country. I don't know. They try to oversimplify and solve the issue in 2 seconds, but apparently it's just not that simple. So after we learned about the Civil War, we went into Mao Zedong's policies, which there's a few, but we only focused on a few. First, we established that he did make some positive, beneficial changes, like implementing more schools, more literary programs to make people read and write and stuff, more healthcare, just a lot of general small policies. Our teacher liked to skip over that. The main thing she highlighted was the fact that Mao Zedong did establish a one-party communist dictatorship and also made some questionable challenges to general human rights, which isn't too good. But the main 2 policies from Mao Zedong that we learned were the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. The Great Leap Forward was essentially, as she described, Mao Zedong's attempt to increase agricultural and industrial output, which fails horribly because his vision was that there would be little communes, little village areas that were capable of handling agriculture and industry and such. And occasionally they would be given a quota, and a Communist Party member would come to this little commune and collect the set given quota. So this little commune harvests X amount of wheat and produces X amount of industrial output, like steel or something. A communist guy comes over, says, "Did you meet the output? Please give me that X amount of wheat, X amount of steel," and then they take it. And then, that's how it functions. And perfectly ideal, several communes around the country, all producing set quota amount that all goes back to the main Communist Party and makes the country stronger. It's a really idealistic plan that it's like a perfect scenario. It's like me trying to make a villager trading outpost in a video game. It doesn't work like that though, because apparently the main thing our teacher highlighted was the fact that people think they're better than other people if their commune has a bigger output of resources. So apparently people just lie about their output and say, "Oh yeah, we made so much agricultural output, and we made so much steel, so much food, so many crops. We made so much. We're better than all the other communists. So then the communists, whatever person to come check on them would be like, oh, okay, you made so much, then give us more. So they take more, and then as a result, the commune that bragged about how much they had gets everything taken from them because they said they had a lot. In reality, they don't have anything. So all the food is taken from them, and then they start starving to death because they were freaking lying. But the thing about this that seems kind of sketchy to me is the fact that the death toll for this is supposedly 20 to 30 million, according to the teacher, which is 10 times more than the 2 to 3 million of the Civil War. I don't know how 10 times more people die from starvation of lying. It's like their own fault than like a literal civil war. Like I would assume people would stop lying if it resulted in their death, but like, I mean, I don't know. Like, this is just what the teacher taught us, or maybe I misinterpreted something, but the death toll was crazy high for starvation and like them lying about their, agricultural output. So that seemed kind of sketchy to me, but they lie about their production, they are forced into famine, and then they die. And then for some reason, there's like propaganda spread that blames it on like foreign influence, and they say it's democracy, it's capitalism's fault. Frick capitalism. Everyone's dying because of capitalism, even though that seemed really unrelated. That's what our teacher taught us, at least. But that's the first policy. Attempt to increase agricultural and industrial growth. That fails horribly because people are lying. So that doesn't work out. His next policy is a while later. It's called the Cultural Revolution. Basically, Mao Zedong really wants the Communist Party to be a perfect, society type thing. So he doesn't really support the old-fashioned things like Buddhism, Confucianism, mainly religious things, because in a communist society, it's atheist. I think they don't really support any religions in a communist society. It's just a perfectly functioning, well-cogged oil machine. So in a perfect communist society, he doesn't want any of the old-fashioned religion stuff. So he's against Buddhism, Confucianism, and all that old-fashioned stuff. So he wants the youth to be born and raised in a more culturally, perfect way. So he doesn't want the youth to be influenced by the old-fashioned way. So he instructs the youth to be against old-fashioned things like Buddhism and Confucianism. Those are the only two things she really told us about. So the youth were instructed to report any teacher or adult that was practicing Confucianism or Buddhism or any old-fashioned type thing, or if they were just against Mao Zedong and the Communist Party. If you were against Mao Zedong or any of that, like a student, a youth, someone young would report you, and you would supposedly get arrested, which, in my opinion, sounds really stupid because you're essentially trusting like all the kids of society to look over and basically monitor the adults, which is pretty backwards in my opinion. But basically, the kids, it's their job to report anyone who's like old-fashioned or against the Communist Party. So as a result, the kids don't really do that. Instead, they decide if they don't like a teacher or they don't like an adult or even their parents, they'll just report them and claim that they're against the Communist Party or freaking practicing old culture. So you don't like your teacher? Tell the government that they're freaking against Mao Zedong, and then they get arrested and they get publicly shamed or something. So, or arrested, or freaking, I already said that. But basically, the kids just are power fiends and are hungry and basically report all the adults that they don't like. So apparently there were even revolts against parents. Basically, if you were a kid and you didn't like an adult, you just report them, they get arrested, boom, light work. I don't know in what world this seemed like a good idea, but it was Mao Zedong's second main policy that we learned about. Not the best idea not the best play in the book. But the kids were called the Red Guards. They would accuse adults, and then, adults would get arrested and all that crap. Apparently this was really bad for the economy, which makes sense. If the kids are running literally everything, that makes a lot of sense, actually. So those are the main two policies from Mao Zedong. Our teacher liked to emphasize a quote from her teacher, who happened to be a Chinese person. Apparently they said, "We all love Mao Zedong, but he made mistakes, like every other leader." So, yeah, these two policies that we learned about were not... They were both basically fails, but, Mao Zedong, rest in peace. Bro tried his best, and then he did some good stuff, and then he did some bad stuff, like any other leader. So, whatever. But he died, and then he got replaced by Deng Xiaoping. This is the Mao Zedong follow-up. Apparently, he's a lot better because of one thing he did, which is opening up foreign trade and stuff. He keeps the Communist Party, he keeps the dictatorship, but the main thing he does is he embraces capitalism and foreign industry and like foreign trade and stuff, which is obviously a great move for the economy. You can like actually, you know, do stuff. And he embraced capitalism with the quote saying it doesn't matter if it's a black cat or a white cat as long as it catches mice, meaning it doesn't matter if you're communist or capitalist as long as you make money. Pretty smart guy. He starts, you know, doing foreign trade, boosting the economy and stuff, started working better. But we did learn 2 policies from him that did not work out too well, which is, 1, his Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. When students were advocating for democracy, he just said, I don't like that, please get rid of them. So we learned that he just, you know, killed a bunch of students who were advocating for democracy. Rest in peace. There was a photo of a guy standing in front of a tank. I've heard of that photo, I've just never seen it. I imagine like a guy like beating up a tank for some reason with his bare hands, but no, it was a guy just like with his groceries just on the road, an empty road. He just stood in front of a tank and the tank was just like standing there. But our teacher was like delving on the lore of that guy. He's like, we don't know what happened to him. He's probably dead now. But it's a tragic event, Tiananmen Square massacre, massive tragedy. But the other thing we learned about is the one-child policy, because supposedly China was increasing in terms of population at a rate that was super crazy to the point where they didn't think they could sustain that many people. So they implemented the one-child policy to kind of limit growth. It's an issue because, well, a lot of people wanted a male one child, so they could pass on the lineage. So a lot of people would end up abandoning their female children, or in the rural side of the country, they would just kill their female children because they wanted a male to pass on lineage or some crap. So, yeah, that's ultimately, like, it didn't really work out that well. You know, restricting, you know, adults to only having 1 kid is a pretty dehumanizing thing to do. So that's another big L policy from Deng Xiaoping. And also, we also learned about this meme that the current Chinese president or leader, communist leader, he has a striking resemblance to Winnie the Pooh, apparently. So it was banned. Winnie the Pooh was literally banned in China because it was used as a code name to insult the president. So like, people would say I hate Winnie the Pooh when they say they hate Xi Jinping or something. So, you know, they just banned Winnie the Pooh off the internet, which I find kind of funny because it's literally a cartoon. But, you know, rest in peace, Winnie the Pooh. I've never watched Winnie the Pooh. I don't really care. But that's essentially all we learned. It was quite a bulky amount of information, but it was an interesting amount to learn. And at the end of class, she was like, Thomas, did I do China justice? I'm like, I didn't know any of this crap before, so sure. I will obviously be conferring with my dad just to get the perspective, because you always want to take 2 perspectives of a thing, mix it together, and I'm assuming the truth is usually somewhere in between. But yeah, this was interesting to learn about. And, you know, next time we'll learn about some other stuff. I can't wait to get to the Vietnam War, because I have a friend who's Vietnamese, and he's very proud of how the Vietnamese folded the U.S. I don't know, that's pretty funny to me. But yeah, that was the Chinese Communist Revolution. Quite a good piece of notes. And now I'm going to go back to not caring about my notes until the next unit where we learn about more China. Epic.